You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hello. Welcome back to the Bright Life Podcast. This week, I saw something that I wanted to share with you. I was scrolling Instagram, as one does, and I actually saw something that I thought could be quite a beautiful perspective. So it was something along the lines of, imagine that you have passed on and you get one day to come back to Earth. How do you feel? What do you do? Something along those lines. So while it can be a little bit morbid in the sense that you're imagining you've passed on, I actually think this is such a beautiful perspective. And I jotted down a few notes about it that I wanted to share with you because I think it's so easy in our actual day-to-day to get so bogged down by what's going on, by the stresses, by getting food on the table, by maybe whatever you're dealing with in your head, around a situation, to forget that actually we're living in this crazy kind of gift of an experience, right? Like somehow out of a bazillion chances, you made it here as a human being living on Earth, the only one of you that will ever exist in all of human history, by the way. And we are living in this kind of crazy planet that somehow exists in our universe. And we're not even sure if another one has ever been replicated quite the same, right? Like it's kind of a crazy gift and experience that you and I get to have if you think about it. So when I thought about this post, I thought, okay, that definitely makes me think of a few things in a different way that I wanted to pass on with you as well. So the first one is, gosh, if you got the chance to come back, let's say you're like this cute little 90-year-old angel in the sky now, and you got to come back to Earth for one day, what would you do? So maybe there's something that you love now that you haven't done in a while or that you would look so forward to again. Maybe it's hugging your loved ones. Maybe it's swimming in the sea. Maybe you would love to just feel the sun on your skin again. Maybe it's something like even just sitting in the grass and feeling the earth. Maybe it's hugging your furry loved ones or playing fetch with them, something like that. Maybe it's going into a place you love to volunteer and seeing what's been done there. Maybe it's a classroom you love. So what would you do if you got the chance to come back for one day? And then how can you do more of that thing now, right, is the connection. So you can think about it as we're chatting, or you can journal on it depending on what style is your favorite. But that's one thing I thought of is like, what do you do? What are the things you absolutely would miss if you don't win, right? One day we won't have this human experience as far as we know. And so what will you miss then? The next one, of course, is who do you see? Like what relationships mean the most to you? If you had one day to come back to Earth, who would you hug? Is it your kids? Is it your spouse? Is it your family, your grandparents, your best friends? Maybe you love your coworkers. You never know. But who would you really want to see? And maybe then can you see them a little bit more now, or can you plan that next adventure with them or that next memory, or just the next time you hug them a little bit closer, right? What do you say to them? So this is a big one. Is there anything left unsaid that you haven't said thus far that if you knew you missed your chance and you got to come back one day, that you would for sure say to them? Maybe it's how much you love them. Maybe it's a message of forgiveness. Maybe it's a message of understanding. Maybe there's some clarity or cleaning up of things that you need to do. What message is being left unsaid right now that you would pass on? And is there any way that you can say that now while you still have the chance, that you can express the love or the message on your heart or the appreciation that is going left unsaid, or that feels like it's this unspoken understanding, but maybe you'd really want to make sure you put words to if you got the chance? The next thing I thought about is like, what do you worry less about? So there's some level of worry, of course, that keeps our lives going along, right? Like you have to make enough money to get food on your table and a shelter over your head. You obviously want to make sure that you are maybe getting a promotion or making sure your kids are safe or things like that. So of course, there's some level of worry that you just have to have as a human in this life. But is there anything that you just give less importance to or less priority to? I even thought about like, is there anything with your body that you're spending a lot of time on, right? We're just coming out of summer. What do you worry less about when it comes to like your thighs or your stomach in a swimsuit? Is there anything that you are obsessing over or trying so hard to dial in right now, day to day, that if you got the chance to come back to earth, having left it, you would really not give a second to? And how can that change what you do right now? Is there anything that you're stressing about even in your career, whether a conversation with your boss or an email you woke up to or a deadline you have today that you really won't worry about as much? My mom always says, if you wouldn't worry about it in 5 years, don't worry about it as much today. And so there's something like that, right? Where it's like, yes, do the things that need to be done, but is there anything that's taking up your peace that you would not give a second to if you got the chance to spend one more day on this beautiful earth, having lost that ability? And so maybe just that recalibration, right? Of like, maybe it's still an important thing to you now because it needs to get done, but maybe it takes up 5% of your brain instead of 95, something like that. Another question that I thought about that you can journal on or think through is, what chances do you take? Is there anything that you're holding back on now, feeling like you have time, that you would actually come back and really want to make sure that you did get the chance to do? Could be something like skydiving, could be something like skiing, could be a place that you wanted to travel to. It could be a message that you really want to share, that you've known in your heart you wanted to share with the world. So what chances would you take if you had passed on and you got one day to come back to earth? What would you really want to make sure you've done? And can you do that now? There's a book called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins, and it's not actually about dying with zero, but it is about rearranging your priorities so that you can do the things at the right time in your life when you have the health or the energy or the resources to do them. Because sometimes, right, people wait until they're much older, but they don't have the health to enjoy like that ski trip anymore. Or maybe they wait until they have the resources to go do that one thing, but they no longer have the energy to go backpack around Europe, or it's just about getting the order that you do things right. And making sure that you are allocating the energy and the resources and the time and the health that you have, like in the right order, so that you're not saving up the wrong things when you won't have the other pieces to enjoy them, and vice versa. So that's a great one, but it made me think of that, of like, is there a chance that you need to take now that you're just thinking you'll take one day, but really if you missed it, it would be too bad for you. You would really like have that thought of like loss. And then another one is, what do you feel grateful for that you're not fully appreciating now? So is there anything in your life that you aren't fully like relishing in as this beautiful part of the human experience? It could be love, could be your body, your health. It could just be even the highs and lows. So no one wants to experience sadness, and no one wishes some of the heartbreaks of life on anyone else ever, right? But is there anything that with that zoomed out perspective, you're like, gosh, what a gift to be a human. What a gift to have the heartbreak contrasted with the love. What a gift to have like the nervousness of doing something, but with the elation of having done it and experienced it. The loss with also the gain. Again, not trying to like play down the hardships of life in any way, but also just trying to come back with that perspective of if you'd passed on, what would you look at with more of a newfound gratefulness for, even for the messiness of life and the human experience? And is there anything in there that just would relax you and even like soothe your nervous system, because you're like, okay, I have been putting so much emphasis and pressure on this one thing, but when I look at it with the zoomed out perspective, it's just this, or it falls away in comparison to what really matters over here. Or I've been focusing on this, but this is the conversation I need to be having, or this is what I should be doing with my time. Or these little rituals that I take for granted, like that cup of coffee in the morning, or sitting on my patio feeling the sun, or watching a sunset, becomes so much more special because I realize it is a finite experience that one day I won't have anymore. So I just thought that was such like a beautiful perspective shift. Sometimes you do get those things from the gram. You never know. It goes both ways. But this week that really served me. And I hope that it supports you as well in just thinking through and clarifying like what matters, what feels like a gift in this human experience. And on the day when, we all pass away, which is such a crazy thought, like one day we will not be here, but you get the chance to come back. What would you love to do? Who would you love to see? What would you feel compelled to say, to take a chance on, to feel grateful for, to appreciate in another way? What stands out to you, and how does that shift how you want to live now with the rest of your days and the gift of being here on this planet, on this earth, in this 1 in a billion chance of being here? All right, I hope you have a wonderful week and this supports you. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening in. If you love this episode, there are 2 things that would be so helpful to me and this podcast. One, if you haven't yet, is to leave a review. These take less than a minute, but help get this podcast into the ears of more listeners and women it can uplift. Or if you've already left a review, share this episode on Instagram and tag me at @HiJessicaJohnson so I can personally thank you and reshare. Thank you for being here, and I will see you again next week.